Hello, I'm Rico Cavella. Welcome to this episode of Fearless Aging. The title of today's episode is Managing Stress is a Matter of Life and Death. And it truly is. We now know that stress is the number one precursor to most disease, and illnesses in the body. So our expert guest, Dr. Dvorak, will give you proven tips and strategies and methods that she's learned from her clinical work. So we barely have enough time for her interview. This is a past interview from our self-care guide summit. So I'm going to go ahead and start right now. So here we go. Hello, this is Rico Cavella, and this is your Ageless Body Self-Care Guide, your operations manual for your body and for your mind. And the title of this session is all about, more about stress, how to reduce stress and anxiety. This is such a big issue these days, and we know that stress is a major factor and a precursor to most chronic illnesses, because we also know, what manifests in our physical bodies begins in our mental, emotional state. So this is such an important topic. So in this session, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Sylva Dvorak. She's a holistic health counselor, a social entrepreneur, a New York Times best-selling author of Your Hidden Riches, and she's the Chief Inspiration Officer and Executive Director of the I Am Foundation. So Dr. Sylva Dvorak, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, thank you so much. So let's get right into it. And we're going to give people some really good tips on, what the problems is, why they're having so much stress and anxiety, and what they can actually do about it, how they can end that cycle that what you teach. And I encourage all of our viewers to stay tuned to the end. It's only going to be about 20 minutes. But at the end, you're going to get Dr. Sylva's number 3 or 5 really best tips, things that you can do immediately to break that cycle of stress and anxiety. And I think it's going to be something of real value to you. So my first question to you is, how do you really define stress and anxiety, and talk a little bit about how, the mental and physical stress, how it affects our physical and our mental health?
Sure. So, stress is really a physiological and psychological response to some sort of a trigger that we experience in our life. So it's really a normal part of our life. We all experience stress in one form or another. The key to stress and its impact on us is, of course, how we manage stress, how we manage it in our life. And so if we were to define stress in the different ways that it's, I guess you could say, more scientifically or clinically described, we have something called eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. And eustress is really the kind of stress that is a positive stress. So we can have positive stress in our life, and positive stress would be something like, let's say you're going on a trip, and you're excited about it. It can create some stress, but it's exciting, right? So that's a positive. So that's called eustress. Then we have acute stress. So acute stress would be kind of like a one-time incident type of situation. So for example, you're driving down the freeway and then you see those flashing lights, behind you, and it's a policeman pulling you over, and all of a sudden your heart is palpitating, you start sweating, maybe your mouth gets dry, and you get pulled over. But that kind of stress you get over fairly quickly. It's that kind of moment in time experience. Then we have what's called chronic stress or long-term stress. So that's the kind of stress that we're experiencing over a long period of time, that's been around a while. And this is the stress that's the most, you could say, harmful to our well-being, both psychologically or mentally, emotionally, and physiologically. The reason why is oftentimes people don't realize that they're running this kind of stress. And that can be because you're so busy, you're not recognizing it, or you're just so used to it, that you don't even realize that you're so stressed, or you're so distracted with something, that you're not realizing it. And that chronic stress is the one that actually wears on us the most and is the greatest health challenge. Then there's anxiety. So the distinction really between the two is that in anxiety is where our mind is constantly worrying. In other words, we're constantly having those tapes running, like it's called rumination. And you can have that without the stressor actually being there. And so it's like something's running in the background, and that creates this anxiety, experience. And so that's the distinction, kind of the mind constantly focused on that anxious thing that's happened in the past, usually, or worried about the future. And so anxiety is also where you would get more of like the anxiety attacks, the panic attacks, the PTSD type of experiences, post-traumatic stress disorder type of physiological responses. Now, with anxiety and stress, you can actually experience the same kind of symptoms. So, for example, you may get the heartbeat, the heart racing, right? You may get a feeling of like you can't breathe, you may get the sweaty palms. Sometimes people even experience a little bit of dizziness. You may feel, your stomach kind of gripping. Some people get a little maybe even foggy in the brain when they're having that stress moment or anxious moment. So you can experience similar kind of symptoms, both with the stress and the anxiety.
So what are the major causes you think in today's society of why we have so much stress, both physical and mental?
Yeah, so, I really don't know anyone. I don't know if you do, Rico, that hasn't been experiencing some stress in the last year, right? I mean, we've been put under so much stress, and we're really what they're now calling is a mental health pandemic. And that is because of this intensity of what's been going on in the world, and the impact that it's had on our lives. And so in the work that I do, and here's how I always talk to my clients about it, is that stress is caused, one of the main things is by any sort of change that we have in our lives, and especially the perceived change. So change can be good or change can be positive, but yet our mind reacts to it similarly, because it's something different that's about to happen in our life. And so that activates what's called the fight, flight, or freeze system within our body. So any kind of stress, any kind of change happening in our life, of course, we're all experiencing that, especially in this last year, and the unknown. So right now we've gone through a year of a lot of unknowns, uncertainty. That creates a lot of stress for us humans, because we like consistency. We like, knowing what's coming next, having those, that set way of being, that schedule is comforting for us, feels safe. So when we experience a perceived threat, such as a change or an unknown, then that creates what we experience as a threat. So those, I'd say, were the two biggies. But then, of course, there's money challenges, anything around money creates a lot of stress for people. It's still the number one cause of divorce, right? Relationship challenges, of course, create a lot of stress, because those are the most closest to us and our heart space. So anything that connects, affects our heart space and negatively on our heart space is a real stressor to our lives, because, I believe that love is our greatest need, And so for everyone, that kind of equalizes all of us. And then when that feels threatened in our lives, that experience of that heart connection or love, then that is extremely stressful for us. Of course, then that's where falls in anything to do with family, children. And so these are really the greatest stressors that we experience in our life.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about some of the ways that you recommend your clients, your patients, for managing and reducing stress, I just want to add, change is inevitable. Life's all about that. We're constantly changing, and I guess we're just not really taught, to accept change and realize that everything is always changing, and we shouldn't be fearing changing. And then also, I think that it's important to realize that, everything is just a perception, right? And we can choose how we react to whatever's going on, like this pandemic and all this thing. And then also, I think one of the problems, I think you'll probably agree, is our media. You know, our media just overblows everything
Yeah.
and it just creates fear and anxiety. And if you watch the night, I have a saying, if you if if you live with the news, you live with the blues. You know, so
That's a great way to put it. I like that. Yeah.
you got to let go of watching the nightly news all. It's not that you don't want to know what's going on, all that, but it just goes on and on. So everybody gets so fearful of things, and really,
Right.
you know, fear is mostly in our mind. It's mostly the things
Right.
that, and I just want to say too, a good definition of worry is visualizing what you don't want to happen.
Right.
So you've got to just, you know, we got to get that message out to more people that, you know, stop worrying about things. And I think one of the biggest problems we have is resisting change, as you were talking
Right.
about, right?
Right, absolutely. And you said something really, really important. Like for all my clients, I tell them 10 minutes maximum on the news. Like I said, this
Yeah.
is my prescription for you. So I could give you a
Yeah.
prescription. Now, if you have to watch the news, like if you have to get the headlines,
Yeah.
or something like that, then just scan the headlines or watch 10 minutes because the rest of it is just obviously, I don't know if you're going to get that much more. You know what I mean? And the news are designed because it's a media and they're making money from advertising. So they are very skilled in hooking your emotions. And once they hook your emotions, especially fear, then they've got you hooked to watch. And unless it's part of your business and you need to do that for whatever reason it may be, especially these days, if you're experiencing stress, anxiety, really limit the amount of news that you're watching. I can't tell you all my clients when they do that, what a difference it's made just in their lives, just by limiting, say, to 10 minutes maximum a day. You'll get everything you need, you know?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
such a good point. And I just want to
Yeah.
add one more thing is that uh, it's so important to actually, I lost my train of thought here. I lost my
We're
train of
talking
thought.
about the news. We were talking
Yeah,
about the news and
yeah,
how it captures you. Yeah.
yeah. But I lost what I wanted to say there. Okay, so let's go on and say, so what would you, how do you recommend to your clients and your patients, you know, what's the most important thing that they can do to actually begin to manage it and to change their whole perception of it and release these cycles of stress and anxiety?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think is really important is for people to realize just what stress does to their health and well-being, right?
Yeah.
So first of all is to realize that studies have now shown conclusively that chronic stress impacts our health negatively,
Hmm.
right? And so that can be heart disease, such as heart attack and stroke. It contributes to heart attack and stroke. They know it contributes to cancer, especially a certain type of emotions like anger. They know that chronic stress affects our digestion, right? In natural medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, digestion is called the second brain. We're digesting here, and we're digesting in our stomach or in our whole digestive system. It's considered the second brain. So stress affects our digestion. It affects our muscular system because we're usually tensing up, gripping, respiratory system because we tend to shallow breathe, which impacts the respiratory system negatively. So stress creates that shallow kind of hyperventilation type of breathing. Of course, it also impacts our immune system. Now, these days, more than ever, we want to keep a strong immune system, right? And with the stress now affecting our body so much, physiologically in our immune system, this is something so important. Another reason to really manage our stress these days is we want to have that strong immune system. And then, of course, they know now that stress affects sexual health, reproduction as well. So these are very important. And when you know just how it impacts us, then you want to say, hey, what can I do, right? What can I do to manage our stress? And there's just so many things we can do. First of all is to recognize what is causing the stress. And that's a great starting point. Like, what is really causing the stress? One thing, you can do is keep a journal and just start to notice in the day, like, oh, I'm feeling stressed, and writing it down because we go off to the next thing and the next thing. Now, when you see a pattern or you see what's causing the stress, then go, oh, is there something I can do about that? So let's just say it's work stress because you don't have a break, it never stops. And you go, okay, well, maybe I can put a little post-it on my computer and take some breaths. Maybe I can get up every hour and just move my body to release that stress from my body.
Absolutely.
Maybe I can go out and get some fresh air. There's, to switch it up a little bit. And so just recognizing what those stresses are is key, is a good thing. But I believe that we all have to do something daily, regularly, to manage the stress in our lives more than ever. So one of the things that I think is extremely helpful, very, very easy to do, is listen to calming music. Actually, I prescribe it for all my clients to find 3 pieces of music that makes them feel good, makes them feel calm. And if it's important that they need it to, makes them feel happy too, because that's important too, right? So they'll have the news blues, right?
Yeah.
Makes them feel happy. And this music has to be some type of music that doesn't remind them, have any negative memory association. As a matter of fact, if they go into different genres, it may be even better. Music at 432 megahertz, found calming to the nervous system. It can't be discordant. Rap, hip hop, nothing wrong with them. It's just that they are discordant. They're not calming to the nervous system. So something like Mozart, Beethoven, traditional classical, light jazz, Native American flute, chanting from different traditions, because music imprints both on the left and right hemispheres of the brain, and therefore it balances the hemispheres of the brain, and that is very calming for our nervous system. So that's an easy tool you can incorporate right away. Listen to it first thing in the morning, throughout the day. You can make a playlist if one likes that. Some of my clients do that. Very helpful. And the other thing would be breathing, to notice breathing. Under stress, anxiety, we tend to shallow breathe. And when we shallow breathe, that loops us in that stress because we start to hyperventilate. We're not getting that breath, that oxygen throughout our body and into our brain. And so simple thing, just as taking a deep breath in through the nose, opening up the heart space, opening up the lungs, and lifting the chin a little bit, breathing in deeply, just doing that throughout the day. For breathing techniques, one that's super easy to remember would be it's called box breathing, 4-4-4 breath. You inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4. That breathing technique's very simple to remember how to use that 4-4-4 breath or box breathing. Breathing techniques are really very, very helpful very quickly. You can do a shakeout. So say you're feeling gripped by stress, anxiety, you can literally jump up and down, shake it out. It's called a state change. Move the body, move the arms, shake it out, move the head, get up from your desk, shake it out. That can release the stress. Imagine it coming, leaving your body, going into the earth, releasing it to the earth. That can just a very simple thing to do.
Yeah, I just want to add, any kind of exercise is really the very best release of stress. Anytime I feel a little bit stressed, because I exercise a lot all the time, every day anyway, but just any form of exercise is really, really helpful.
Exercise, of course, having good nutrition is important, because then we're feeding our body good nutrition. Our body responds more positively when we give it good nutrition, whole foods, organic foods, balanced, not too much sugar, processed food, fast food, food that just isn't, as we know, healthy, the quick foods, the bagged foods, So the other tools that are really good are like spending more time in nature.
Absolutely.
Right? Nature releases an alpha wave. The alpha wave is how we want to be in more of that alpha state. We can do what we need to do in our day, but we're more present. We're more relaxed. So, you can take off the shoes, walk on the beach if you're close to a beach, on the sand,
do a little
earthing.
Earthing, yeah.
Yes, earth therapy, nature therapy I prescribe as well.
So
Hug a tree, those tree huggers knew what they were doing. So hugging a tree is very healing too.
I'm definitely a tree hugger, I know.
Me too, yeah.
So good, yeah, those are all such great tips.
Yeah.
So what would you say, I think you've already said them, but what would you say your top 3 or 4 things that people could start doing right now? Well, I think you already said it, breathing, right?
Yeah, well, one other thing that's also important, especially right now, is staying connected to others, not isolating.
Yeah.
So loved ones, family and friends. A lot of stress has happened in the last year due to isolation, disconnection from our loved ones and friends and family. And so even if you have to do it on video, making sure you're staying connected to others, very helpful for the mind and the nervous system. Definitely the breathing, definitely exercise. Um, Minimizing, the negative, what you put in your mind, starting your day off in a positive way, doing either the breathing or with saying 10 things you're grateful for. If you start your day off
Yeah,
in a
gratitude.
positive way, like saying gratitudes, that sets the course for your day. And I'm a huge proponent of mindfulness. So taking a few minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, and getting very present and still and closing your eyes and observing your breath. Or I teach one almost to every client, if they just want to start something, simple and easy, is just close your eyes, do a few breaths to center yourself, and then just repeat like a mantra meditation, like the word peace periodically, just like say peace in your mind quietly, just for like 5 minutes. If you can do more, great, or a couple times a day. Those would be my most important tips, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, so good. Absolutely right. So good. So you just got to do that. You just got to commit to taking control of your life and actually doing that. And, uh,
Schedule it. I tell everyone, schedule it. You're so can schedule your
yeah,
appointment, schedule that time for you, even if it's breathing for 30 seconds, put it on your calendar, or that mindfulness practice, 5 minutes,
yeah.
still put it there so you remember, because that's the key, is remembering.
Or like you
Yeah.
said, put a sticky note on your computer or your laptop or
Yes,
something like that as
exactly.
well. And I
Yep.
want to add, what I wanted to say before was, there's so much more good in the world than there is bad, and good things going on. And such a really a testimony to me was just doing this summit. All these experts like yourself that I've interviewed, it's just been such amazing, finding all the people like yourself that are really light workers and are just doing such great things and just positive things and moving people forward. And there's so much more of that than all the darkness that, again, if you just watch the nightly news. So I want people to know that, that we are moving forward, we are improving. Eventually we'll create a much more peaceful and prosperous world for everybody, and a healthy world. And that's the whole idea of this summit. But
Starts
you
with
and
us.
it
Starts with
starts.
us, right?
That's right. Yeah. But there's lots of people doing some really great things, but you don't hear about it on the news, but
Right.
we are moving forward in that direction. So
Absolutely.
Sylva, that was so good. That's such great information. And
You.
one more thing before we end here, I just want to say, my all-time favorite book title. I wish I would have thought of it. Can you guess what it was?
No.
Remember that book? Don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff.
Right.
That's
That is a great one. You're right.
that is so true. That is
Right.
so good. It's all,
Yeah.
and everything happens for a reason. So we just always got to look for the positive. But
That's right.
everything that's going on, there's a reason for it, and we just got to look for the positive. So
100%.
Silva,
Yes.
thank you so much. That was great. So here's the
Thank
thing.
you.
I always like to end with, knowledge without action is useless, so you've got to step up and take action on all you learn from Dr. Sylva and all of our experts. And then also, I'm going to remind you that, your package comes with a PDF, and in that PDF, you'll get the transcript of what we just talked about here with Dr. Sylva, and then all her contact information. You definitely should contact her. She has so much more to offer you, and if you actually you need some training, some coaching from her, you definitely want to get a hold of her, and she has so much more to offer. So again, you can do it. You just got to take control of your life and step up and to actually take action on all you've learned here in this summer. So
One
again,
thing at a
Dr.
time, you can do it. Yeah.
You can do it. So thank you so much again. That was great. And thank
Thank
you all
you.
for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. All right, we are back. We just have a minute left, so I have one more important message for you, and that'll take care of this show today. Thanks very much for being here. Tell your friends about the Fearless Age. Oh.
Stop forcing down those massive pills that end up in your toilet, not in your bloodstream. Hello, I'm Rico Cavella. For the very first time in my 43 years as a personal trainer and wellness coach, I am endorsing and recommending a unique line of nutritional supplements. Superior Source produces an exclusive line of microlingual tablets that dissolve instantly under your tongue. I have a hard time swallowing large tablets and capsules, but these tiny tablets are the easiest to take.